Today is January 31st, 2014, but probably not for long because it's like 11:30. I always do this. What is this me doing now? So I had kind of done a rant slash philosophy talk, I guess, and I don't know if I'll be able to recreate it, but I guess I'm just gonna talk it out and see how it works this time around. It seems hauntingly silent in here. Okay, and since I'm planning on putting this on my community service thing, I'm not counting this as homework because I'd ranted about it without thinking really that I would do anything related to school with it. But I want to put it on like my artifacts. I want to like take the audio, put it like with a video with probably, it might get subtitles, but maybe not. And then put that video in artifacts on my community service page. So anyway, I was talking about how dogs are, I was talking about how at Watermelon Mountain Ranch, the dogs are separated from each other. It's like there are dogs, across the way from them, but they don't really see each other. And there are dogs right next to them, but there's a huge wall, so they don't see them. And it's almost like they don't know they exist because they stop making an effort to figure out if they're there. And the reason I brought this up at all was because I had been pondering why, when you walk a dog, just taking a dog out of the little kennel area, you walk them by the dogs at the entrance, and those dogs freak out, start barking viciously, jumping on the gate, and making a whole bunch of racket, and it's ridiculous. But I kind of summed it up as these dogs, well, okay, back up. Dogs are social animals, and they're used to interacting with each other, and that gets taken away from them. And so when they see another dog, like, whoa, just walk right by them, they're gonna freak out. And in talking about the dogs being social and not having that, I came to talk about why it was depressing and also why it was a safety issue. It's depressing in that the dogs want to interact with each other and probably need that and probably aren't going to actually attack each other. And, they would be so much more comfortable if they could interact with the other dogs that are there and get to know them instead of feeling like they have to be afraid of them or be threatened by them or be like, why is an inferior walking right past me without bowing down or whatever they think. And it's sad that, they don't get to interact on a regular basis. They don't get to interact at all. But, on the other hand, it's a safety issue. Not only, the people at the ranch presume, and probably are certain, and it's probably certain, that if you put multiple dogs together in one pen, they're going to attack each other. And it's not just like, a foreign dog. I'm just going to attack another foreign dog. Most dogs aren't like that. And that could be due to the fact that they've been trained and they've been brought into interaction with other dogs on a regular basis, and so it's not like so crazy to them to think, wow, there's another dog. What do I do? The reason that they would attack is probably because of the instinctual hierarchy and want to be the alpha and desire to be the alpha. And this is not really something that can be suppressed. And most of the dogs are gonna get along and, interact and be friends, be friendly and play around, wrestle. They're gonna be the few, and actually could be a lot. I'm not gonna judge based on, the breed of the dog, but some of these dogs' personalities might suggest that there's this need in their mind to be alpha, that they probably had already established that position somewhere else, and they need to reassert it. And so that would be a safety issue, had to have dogs fighting over who actually gets to be alpha. And that's not really something that's going to be good if you want to try to integrate these dogs into human society. And so when I was talking about dogs and, wanting to be the alpha, I came to Canine Social Hierarchy, and how it's very definitive. It's very, set in stone, kind of. You're the alpha, you're the beta, you're the delta, or you're the, omega. I know there's ones in there. I'm not quite sure what they are. If you ask, the reason why I remember these is from roleplays, wolf roleplays. There were so many of those on the Twilight fan site, and we all played them, I'm pretty sure. So we kind of got used to the rankings there. Of course, I don't remember many vicious fights. It's mostly just boring. Let's walk around and patrol. Oh, how interesting. Anyway. So dogs and wolves and other related species, families, orders, genus, have very strict social hierarchy. You're the alpha or you're not. Really, the social hierarchy for dogs and canines asserts that you bow down to who is above you, and you keep in check those who are below you. That's basically what it is. And so, if a dog has in some place asserted himself or herself as alpha, it's going to be difficult to try to bring them back from that, to say, no, you're not. That's why you try to integrate them early on, but they don't always get that opportunity. So, this is kind of the canine social hierarchy brought me to human social hierarchy and the hierarchical system, the human hierarchical system and the canine hierarchical system. Now, they differ not only in the fact that there are such strict classes, in that there's strict classes in one of them, the other one's more freeform, but they're entirely different. While they may both be based on being social, I'm not going to make any definitive statements. The canine social hierarchy and hierarchical system is pretty much based on dominance and where you actually stand in terms of others. While human society does a similar thing, it is not as 100% of what they do. It's part of it, but I feel like we understand who our elders are, who we look up to, and who we have to show respect toward. And we know who the people are that look up to us and show respect toward us. And so we have that sort of thing. It's not as clean cut, and it's kind of a learning system as well. You, in humans, you obey your elder because you A, want to please them, and or B, want to be like them, or C, to maintain order. And canines maintain order in how they rank themselves similarly, just as humans do. We say, a mother says to a child, clean your room. Well, the kid's going to do it to maintain order. Similarly with canines, if the alpha or beta, whoever, commands someone of a lower rank than them, then it's kind of the duty of the dog of the lower rank to get that task done. It maintains order, and I guess it keeps work easier, but we're not talking about work, we're just talking about the hierarchy itself. come to the point where I was saying dogs at Watermelon Mountain Ranch are what real dogs are like. I say this because they're rambunctious, full of energy, high-spirited, and completely always wanted to assert themselves as alpha. Like, no matter what. And on the one hand, that's not like what quote-unquote real dogs are like, because there's no like real dog definition. It's like a dog is a dog. There's no like real dog, just like there's no real human. Like, you can't really verify the realness of something, because you have to come up with a definition that works for a significant number of individuals in that group, and I'm pretty sure that would just be too much effort and offensive in our culture and unreliable in others. So, brought to the point that Watermelon Mountain Ranch dogs are the real thing. While they may be pretty real, it's, for me, when I mean real, I mean it's kind of like a reality check. Because, I always imagine having a dog that just walks obediently at your side, doesn't even need a leash, always there, ready to just look up at you with sad, mournful eyes, and, put his head on his paws and look up at you, and always be eager to do whatever you want to do, and always eager to cuddle when you want to cuddle. And I went to Watermelon Mountain Ranch, and it was kind of a reality check, like right then. I was thinking, walking a dog isn't that big of a deal, right? Well, it turned out to be kind of a struggle for dominance, I guess, to put it in, like, the hierarchical terms and the hierarchical viewpoint. What some of the dogs that I've worked with, I haven't worked with all that many up until this point. Probably 5 at most. Yeah, I think it's 5. So, a few of those dogs have actually, I think, tried to physically assert the fact that they're alpha. And I don't know if dogs jumping up on you is necessarily them trying to assert that they're alpha, but in the manner these dogs were doing it, it seemed to be that way. I feel like if a dog is jumping up on you and trying to like bite you, it is a definite order, get down to where you belong kind of thing. And when a dog's just trying to like reach up with his huge paws and try to put them on your shoulders, I'm not really sure if that's a call for you to get back to reality kind of thing. But it's one of those, like, when you're in the woods or whatever and you see a wild animal, to scare it off, you have to try to look bigger than them. So, I try to scare them back into their position, I guess. Make them understand there's an alpha, and it's me. And I feel like that could have been what that dog was doing, trying to stand up on its hind legs and be like, I'm bigger than you. You need to get down to where you belong. So, this is an example of these dogs showing that they're alphas. And that was the reality thing. Reality is that, not all dogs. Reality is that dogs have that instinct to be alpha. This is a generalized statement. I don't really mean to say all dogs, because there are some, I'm pretty sure, that are much shyer, and when they're in the canine social hierarchy, they're pretty low and they have a pretty bad situation there, and they would feel a lot more secure and safe and free in the human social hierarchical system. That didn't make sense. Human hierarchical system. And so that was kind of the reality check, is that no, dogs aren't these picture-perfect, obedient creatures. They have their own instinctual desires that they just can't help but go after and seek. Much like humans, we all have these instinctual desires that we can't really explain, but they're there from long, long ago from our early ancestors, and we still have them. And it just kind of brings us back, to what we all were. But let's not go into an evolution talk. So I had been outlining, I had basically said, most of these dogs want to be alpha. Alright, and after that I followed up with saying, you have to assert yourself as alpha, right? They always say that when you're training a dog, you have to assert yourself as alpha. And I followed that up by saying, you're lobotomizing them. You're just taking away their spirit. And in one sense, yeah, you're taking away their spirit. You're taking away that instinctive desire. How do you take away instinct? I don't know. But by, forcing a dog into obedience, that's exactly what you're doing. You're just ripping them of an instinct. And an instinct may or may not be welcome, but it should be something that you're equipped with no matter what. And to take that from them makes them vulnerable in the real world. And now you might argue and say, well, in the human system, it's not a big deal because they're protected and nothing bad's going to happen to them in terms of them not being able to be alpha. Well, you could be right about that, but in some senses they may not be able to protect themselves, or you, or anybody. So, yeah, I said it was like lobotomizing them. You're robbing them of that instinct. And then I turned and said, well, you're not so much lobotomizing them as trying to introduce them into the human hierarchical system, which is completely different from a canine hierarchical system. You can't really sit down with a dog and say, you're going to move from this system to this system, this hierarchy to this hierarchy, and you might have been alpha there, but you can't be alpha here, and by the way, there's not really such thing as alpha in this system. There's, it's very blurred lines kind of thing. And I kind of kept going and saying, a dog's not going to understand, They don't, do we understand? We try to equalize these systems. And I said, you can't try to equalize these systems. You can't try to say a canine social hierarchy is the same as the human social hierarchy in this way. They're not really all that similar. Well, they're similar, but you can't try to equalize them as if that'll make the transition from an alpha to a whatever that much easier. And so I came to the conclusion that when you train dogs, you're really just preparing them and training them, prepping them for the human hierarchical system. And in training them for this new hierarchy, it's like you're protecting them and saving them, and you're giving them a leg up and an advantage. And yet at the same time, it could be difficult for an alpha male to really comprehend what I don't get to dominate. There's no one below me who I can just use as my punching bag. What? And yeah, it's kind of hard to teach any creature, I guess. It's hard to make it clear that social hierarchies between different species are not the same, and it's not really a transition that can be made like carrying your own skills there. It's like adoption of a completely new thing. Now, many pack animal predator type things might be the same or similar. But, maybe a herd of elephants or something is going to be completely different. because anyway, that's a matriarchal society, and I don't really know too much about that, so let's get back to canines and the human. So I feel that it's like unjustified to lobotomize them and rob them of that instinct, and then praise and marvel and, oh, how obedient they are. It's not really obedience. It's like you just rob them of their life. Same way you jam a nail between someone's eyes and all of a sudden they're like a zombie, but you think they're better than what they were before. Better how? They don't have any feeling. They don't have any of that spirit left in them. And on the one hand, they could still have it. What I was kind of emphasizing was that you kind of have to let the dog know there's the canine social hierarchy and there's the human social hierarchy, and you might be the alpha of the canine social hierarchy, but you come into the human social hierarchy and it's different, and you got to check into your different position, you know? It's like you can have that position as in the canine social hierarchy. In this hierarchy, it's different. And so I guess you have to, like, they have to be able to establish their position across all hierarchies instead of assuming the same position for all of them, because they're all different. And so really that's what I was able to think about and ponder, because I've been wondering, why are they so wild and crazy? And why is it when I see some well-behaved dog on the street just walking so pristinely and daintily, I'm using all the wrong adverbs, alongside their owner, it's just, I like look at that and I marvel. I'm like, how is that possible? I mean, of course, after being like dragged in the dust by many of these dogs, I have to see that not all dogs are equal. And so that brings back to the social hierarchy. Not all hierarchies are equal. Not all creatures are equal. And we have to understand this in trying to integrate others and other creatures and into the human social hierarchy. They can't just assume their position, and in a sense you can't really just assume yours. I said to myself, I'm like, if I get a dog, I'm gonna not order them to sit down, I'm gonna ask them politely to sit down. I'm gonna say, please sit down. And while it may not make sense that you would do that, I feel like you need to respect them. If you're like forcing them to respect you, you at the very least have to respect them for what they're doing and for the effort they're making to integrate. And I guess there's no like official way to wrap that up with a conclusive sentence. So you'll be signing off. Actually, didn't go till midnight. Alright, signing off. 1:31:14. I'll try to post this when I can. I'll definitely do a journal entry tomorrow because I'm going to the ranch. So yeah, signing off.